Yeah, man. I mean, finally, the playoffs are here. It feels like it was taking so long to get to this spot. I think we kind of thought that we were going to see the Magic, especially with the Hawks lineup and how tough that Magic team has been, especially defensively all season long. So it'll definitely be a good matchup. Good Easter Sunday, I guess. Some good to watch during the day. But I'll take the win. I'll take the win. Yeah, I could totally agree with that, especially like some of the pieces that they got coming off the bench. We saw Cole Anthony had a great game for them as well. But again, this is something that we talked about is no Jalen Suggs, so that definitely makes a difference in this series as well. But just the length and how they match up with the Celtics is definitely a little uncomfortable in ways. Especially like we talked about in the past, they've always been the team to give the Celtics problems. So definitely be a fun series. Yeah, I mean, well, first thing I want to kind of touch on there with that whole two Magic victories. I mean, that's kind of without saying that the Celtics did play nobody. They didn't have their big six, so that's without saying, the Magic did have to win that game to kind of lock in that seventh spot. So, I mean, realistically, you can't really think about those stats too much and kind of just think about this whole team being healthy and being ready for this Magic team. But 3-point shooting, man. I mean, I think one of the biggest guys for the Celtics is going to be Derrick White with how quick he could release, especially with this defense that the Magic have. I think that getting quick releases and not really getting a lot of open shots is going to be tough for the Boston Celtics to get this team regardless. But like we said, man, I mean, he's really got one of the quickest releases in the NBA, it feels like. But a lot of other guys are gonna have to come in and play well, like Baylor Shireman. I think he might actually get some decent play in this series. Could sound a little bit surprising, but it all depends on how Sam Hauser shoots as well. We know that he's been shooting a lot better on the second half of the season, just like shooting I can't even. I don't know the exact number, but it feels like it's honestly 50%. I think it's about 46 since the All Star break, right, Bruce? Something like that. I mean, He's been unconscious from three as well, and as long as they keep that confidence, and that goes into game one as well. Just having that 1 week off, you really got to be on your game. They've definitely been prepping for this game for probably longer than a week. They definitely knew that they were going to see the Magic, but I think the guys that I kind of said, Derrick White, Baylor Shireman, and Sam Hauser from the 3 point line, that they're going to be the difference for this team when it comes to 3 point shooting. Mm. Yeah, they were able to match up well with that starting lineup that the Hawks brought out. I mean, Reese Shea is pretty big forward, so it's kind of like they're getting ready for like that Celtics lineup as well. They're pretty much used to playing it because they play it themselves. I mean, Franz Wagner and Paulo are a great duo over there in Orlando. I mean, they're definitely a little scary of a matchup over there. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the Celtics kind of take this series. We don't think that it's going to be a sweep. We both kind of said that. Could definitely see it go to six, which seems a little uncomfortable. But I mean, just the way that they match up with the Celtics and how well they play against them, it's something to think about.
Yeah, no, I think when you see as well with them matching up against this Magic team, you see like the defense being the main point of display, but offensively as well, they do have some of those players. You mentioned Cole Anthony as well, who was on that little bit of a microwave. I tweeted out that was kind of the player that a lot of people wanted the Magic to trade for at the deadline, and he kind of broke out of that last night as well. Apparently they couldn't hear me this entire time. I
Oh,
just
nice.
realized that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So great day going for me on the streaming with the technology over here. The Zoom wasn't working earlier because it publicly shut down, so me and Patrick couldn't do our video in the afternoon. Now my mic's not working. Now my mic is working because I figured out how to get it to work. And this is something that's happened on the Sun's Planet Pod as well. It's just something wrong with this Hypercast quad mic. It's
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the Suns are going to sign Mike Budenholzer back then. Maybe that's a sign.
hope not. Really hope not. Suns
No, yeah, but
Celtics bring him on as an assistant head coach when Sam Cassell goes there.
yeah, right.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
but kind of what we were getting at, guys. I mean, this Magic team is no slouch. They definitely bring the same amount of length that the Celtics do when it comes to their
Yep.
starting lineup, and they do have a great bench production as well, like we saw with Cole Anthony the other night. Kind of gives like a little bit of that Kobe White vibes. How he was able to kind of like he was kind of underperforming in the start of his career and kind of getting into his own and getting more comfortable. And you see how comfortable he is, definitely coming off the bench as well. He definitely can be a starter on this team, but I mean, when you have the bench reduction like the Celtics do with Peyton Pritchard, I mean, sometimes things work well when they're like that.
100%. And I think with Orlando as well, the one key deflating thing for them in this matchup versus the Celtics is that bench help on the offensive
Mhm.
side there, right? Because they are once again a little bit of a younger team. They got guys like Anthony Black. Cole Anthony's, I guess, considered a veteran for that team, but he is, still someone that was not drafted, 10 or 15 years ago. He's not a veteran
Mhm.
across the league. Believe like Jonathan Isaac is their longest tenured player. He was drafted around the same time Jayson Tatum was. So you view that and you kind of compare it. I do believe that they will have that lack of offensive production on that bench unit, specifically at that guard position as well. But they will have that defense to be able to kind of combat with it with the Boston Celtics. And that could be worrisome if the Celtics do get into a game where they do squander from 3 point range because unfortunately, dating back to last year, the two main games that the Celtics lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, in the Eastern Conference playoff run that weren't in versus Dallas, were terrible shooting nights for the Celtics. Game one in Cleveland and game two versus Cleveland and game two versus Miami. They were both atrocious shooting nights. But regardless of that, the Celtics were able to power through. So I think that's mainly that will be like the one game to really look out for the Celtics team. But besides that, I think there's no other worries.
Yeah, but I think the one difference about this year's team compared to last is all these guys that have stepped up this year. Peyton Pritchard stepping up his game, Luke Cornett doubling his game, if that's even just selling it short.
Hmm.
Sam Hauser shooting the ball much better, and then just the additions of just Baylor Shireman, honestly, and just being able to step up and play well and run that double big lineup, which I will think that we will see a lot more because they don't shoot the three ball well, as we just talked about. So if we are forcing them out of the paint and giving them a lot of height down low, they're going to have to be forced to shoot some threes and really kind of shoot themselves back into a game.
100%. And I think the double big lineup is going to be used not only just in this series as well as the Magic,
It'll be
like
a
you
lot.
mentioned, have those lengthier guys. But if the Celtics were to take on the Knicks or the Pistons next series, I could see them using it. And I think specifically versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, if they run into them, they're definitely going to have to use that double big lineup. So I agree with you, Patrick. I think if it's not even if you know that you're going to be using it in the future as well, starting it now in the first round and gradually just getting more comfortable with it as you have all season long will also help the benefit of the Boston Celtics in with those players. And I do agree with you as well. The one difference is Peyton Pritchard, right? Sixth man of the year candidate this year. Luke Cornett completely transformed his game. You have those other additions like Baylor Shireman, where if Sam Hauser isn't having the best game, he can kind of come in. But if Sam Hauser is playing good and you still want more shooting, you can still impact a player like Baylor Shireman. Even Torrey Craig, who hasn't been the greatest offensive piece for the Celtics this season, can still stretch and hit. I guarantee a clutch three in the playoffs. Not only that, playing some fantastic defense for the Celtics squad. So I would overall say that the team is crazy to say, but more stacked than they were last year heading into the playoffs, which is just even though the Eastern Conference got more difficult, the Celtics got better as well.
Yeah, they just feel like a more complete team. And it just really doesn't seem unfair thinking about it that guys like Luke Cornett has been able to step up this much. I mean, being one of the best pick and roll duos with Jayson Tatum in the league this year behind Jokic and Jamal Murray. I don't know how that ended up at the end of the year, but it honestly feels like it should be one. Um, but just the way that he's also been able to play next to Kristaps Porzingis is just unbelievable and has changed the Celtics offensively and defensively because Kristaps isn't running the pick and rolls and he could still be able to stand out on the 3 point line or even just be on the low block and just get his little touch shots. But he's able to ISO a little bit more as well, giving him just a lot more freedom and space to do whatever he's needed to do. But I think this is the series that they're going to have to figure out some things, especially with Jaylen Brown. We know he did get those shots in his knee for the pain. So that's something to look forward to, I guess. Just what type of lineups that they're kind of going to put out there. But I think that this is a bigger lineup series for the Celtics, to be honest. So I don't know how much Jaylen Brown is going to be playing, and I think he'll only play if it's truly needed to play more than about 25 minutes.
Yeah, you mentioned Jaylen Brown, and there were some quotes regarding Jaylen Brown from the practice today. So I definitely want to get into that as well, and we'll dive into that right now because I think that's one of the key sticking points with maybe some of the Celtics doubters, I guess you could say, across the NBA, or maybe some Celtics fans that aren't as confident with this team. But as we can see from multiple reporters from this Celtics team, they are talking to Kristaps Porzingis, and we're talking about Jaylen Brown. And from Zach Cox, we can see he's got this detailed. Kristaps Porzingis, who questioned Jaylen Brown's decision to play through the pain last week, said they had conversations about him resting for the playoffs. And he said, "We definitely talked about it just because of my history, also with some of my knee stuff that has bothered me in the past. We definitely talked. I gave him my point of view, and that's what I could help him." And what I thought could help him. And he did the things necessary to be as healthy and feeling as good as possible for this run we're about to have. So Porzingis and this Celtics team seem very confident with Jaylen Brown, right? They've had these kind of conversations, which is leading me to feel a little bit better about Jaylen Brown coming into this. I also saw a quote here that I'm trying to find from Jrue Holiday as well as Jrue Holiday had an impactful quote on Jaylen Brown as well, where he said that he is not worried about Jaylen Brown, I believe was the exact quote. Let me see if I can find it while I
Yeah,
look for this.
I mean, I,
Patrick,
c- I
why
could
don't you
talk
give
while
your
you
kind
look.
of
Yeah,
thoughts?
I mean, there's one thing to think about. I think that's good. Talking about Kristaps Porzingis, talking to him about injuries. We went through Kristaps for like what? How many games without him in the playoffs? You know what I mean? And that was something that everyone thought that we needed him to take that step to kind of get over the hump and win the championship. And they did a pretty decent job without him. And I think we have a lot more depth from the guard spot than we would from the big spot, and definitely more confidence at least because guys like Sam Hauser can kind of fill in at the starting spot. We've seen Peyton Pritchard step in many, many times. And also even Torrey Craig just defensively and Baylor Shireman if we want some offense and some grit. I think there's a lot more guys that can fill in for Jaylen Brown than Kristaps Porziņģis. So, I mean, it's definitely better to have him, but I don't want it to kind of seem like we don't need him, because we definitely do. But I think that there's a little bit more confidence in me, like with the other guys, to be able to step up if he's not be able to play, 85%, which is the line that we gave him.
100%. And for all I found the quote here, Jrue Holiday on Jaylen Brown, nobody's worried about him. So this kind of quotes here from Jrue Holiday from Jaylen Brown. I also saw Jrue Holiday does not have the cast anymore on his finger. So that is also a
Nice.
good sign with Jrue Holiday as well. So with all those kind of things being aligned, I'm really excited. Hearing that confidence from these players is really nice. Also, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, they obviously have these connections on and off the court, have since Kristaps Porzingis has arrived. And I'm glad that they're able to talk through these injuries and kind of figure that out as well. But like you mentioned, Patrick, in this series, Jaylen Brown's definitely going to be necessary and needed. But if he's
Yeah.
not at that 85%, like we expect him, like we want him to be. I expect him to be at this point with what they're saying. But if he's not, I would love for the Celtics, obviously, to be able to show and dominate with Jaylen Brown, be able to use those guys like Porzingis, like
Mhm.
Jayson Tatum, like Derrick White to really take over for the series to let Jaylen Brown get to that point where he is at 100% for the Boston Celtics. But feeling
Yeah.
confident, I am right now.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we like talked about is kind of just how he moves laterally. He's not going to be as athletic as he usually is, so that's definitely, one thing about it. But like we've talked about in the past, I think he's really going to be used as a decoy. But he really needs to get to a state where he's going to be able to kind of be a decoy and be able to still run around a little bit, move off the ball and be able to somewhat be a threat from 3 point because they might leave him if they could tell that he is hurting and not being able to go up and down the court. There's definitely going to be some issues there where it's kind of look like a 5-on-4, but I think he will be used as a decoy like a decent amount this series, especially as he tries to ramp up a little bit.
And I just found this too. Jay Holiday, he looked good to me. JB is going to be JB in terms of not showing weakness. Everything about him is not showing weakness for him. Nobody is
Mhm.
worried about him. So that's good. Some more reinsurance about that as well. And I think for Jaylen Brown, for all Celtics fans, all we want is the best for him. And if he's going to be at his best coming in and playing in this playoff series, then I think we can expect some great things to come out of it. Now, Patrick, that kind of leads us into the prediction here where we're kind of going to get into it and go over what we think is going to happen with this Celtics squad. Now, we had a video where we kind of dropped and kind of talked about it as well, but we can kind of get into some more detail for the last 10 minutes or so of this stream, going over what we really expect from this Magic team and what our predictions are. So I'll let you take the floor with that one first.
Yeah, so I think I've been a little bit back and forth the past couple of days thinking about it because I really did truly think it would be the Magic through and through.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna give it to the Celtics in 6. I could definitely see it in 5, but just how the Celtics, I think, are gonna have to move around a couple pieces and kind of just Joe likes to figure some things out. I think we're gonna get some close games. I'm definitely used to blowing some leads. But like, don't get me wrong, I could definitely see the sweep, no question. But it just depends on this whole Jaylen Brown injury and how they play around it. I think they're gonna toy around with a couple of things and just they're expected to win the series, but I think just they're looking a little bit forward as well, just to see what they've got and what they're going to be working with. So I think that Celtics in 6, I could say confidently, they should be able to get it done. But that first game in Orlando might be tough. But I mean, this team is good on the road all season long, so it's more about the home games that I could be worried about in game one being a little bit of a close one, and game two being a little bit of a blowout. But I mean, I think Celtics in 6 is a pretty fair, prediction.
I would agree with that. I think a lot of Celtics fans, like you mentioned, are kind of leaning more to the Celtics in 5, Celtics in 6 kind of scenarios here. I think for me personally, if the Magic were a little bit healthier this season, I would have it be more of a 6 to 7 game series if they had a Jalen Suggs and stuff like that. Maybe had made that trade deadline trade to get a little bit beefier offensively. But ultimately, I am going to settle with the Celtics in 5. I do believe, like you mentioned, their road dog mentality is going to allow them to take care of those games in Orlando. We saw throughout the playoffs last season as well. They were very dominant on the road, and they don't like to lose those road games. So I feel confident that they're going to want to make sure that they get that kind of instilled into those places, that they're there to dominate, they're there to take control. So I feel like game 3 and game 4, the Celtics will be able to take care of business. I do think that they will lose probably game 2, as we usually see that happen. But I could see game 1 maybe coming out a little bit slow. Orlando kind of going in with the mentality of, we just won this play-in game, we want to win now type of beat. They can have that. And maybe the Celtics are a little bit slow after having a little bit of a week off to start the game, but I would expect them to go to a 5, potentially 6 game series. Would not be shocked if Orlando does push it that far. And for this Celtics team, I'm going to ask you this as well, because I just thought about it right now, and I'll kind of give mine as well. Who do you think to be the series MVP for the Boston Celtics in this series? I feel like this is kind of a little bit of a cool question to dive into. Personally, I'll go first and I'll give mine. I think it's going to be Derrick White. I think Derrick White is going to get really, really hot versus the Orlando Magic. We saw him versus the Miami Heat be very dominant from three-point range in Miami, and I think that sim trend is going to continue when he gets down to Florida once again in Orlando. Once again, I mentioned they do have some good defensive guards there without Jalen Suggs, but they do have KCP and Anthony Black. But I do feel that with Derrick White and Jrue Holiday being out there alongside Brown and all that stuff, Derrick White might be one of those guys that kind of gets isolated or kind of gets forgotten by this Magic team, and which is crazy to say about Derrick White, but could get forgotten. But he's going to be a guy that can consistently get 20 to 25, I think, in this series for the Celtics.
Yeah, I definitely like that. I was kind of going through my head how they were going to match up with the starting lineups, especially
Mm-hmm.
because even though the Magic are a big team, I mean they got Wendell Carter at their center, but they got a couple 6'10" guys on there. But I'm thinking about who's going to match up on KP, who's going to match up on who. So that's why I think KP would be my MVP for the
Mm-hmm.
series. I think that how he's been able to start a lot of first quarters like Jaylen Brown does is huge for the Boston Celtics offensively, especially off the rip. I don't think any of them are going to be able to guard him. To be honest, I don't think Wendell Carter stands a chance. To be honest, I think he's going to get hot, and like we said, he feels very comfortable shooting threes from 30 feet behind instead of just being a couple inches behind the line. He feels more comfortable out there, and I think they're going to let him shoot those shots, and he's going to get hot real early. I could definitely see Derek White getting hot too. I mean, those are definitely two guys. I think Paolo and JT, that matchup is going to be a really tough matchup, and he's going to have to really step up defensively. And that does get you a little bit tired on the offensive end as well if you're working hard. But I mean, this team is just full of sacrifices constantly with whatever series it is. It's whatever man is next up mentality, and I think that's what we're going to see in this series. Just kind of go with the matchups that are kind of like mismatches and just really work those and force them to change their defense, and that's how other guys get hot. But I think that definitely starts with the two guys that we said.
I 100% agree. Those were the two guys that I was on, kind of deciding
Yep.
between, ultimately thinking in my head, kind of off the rip when I even thought of the question, because you mentioned, I don't think Wendell Carter is going to be on Kristaps Porziņģis. I think it's going to be someone like Jonathan Isaac, who is going to be, one of their premier defenders. I don't think they have Mo Wagner anymore.
Yeah,
He
he was
was
out
out
for the
for a
year.
little, out for the year as well. So they do lack a little bit of that interior presence in that front court there, which the Celtics can use with Porzingis. But not only that, the Latvian laser, like you had mentioned, has come
Mhm.
out of retirement and is just lighting them up, especially in those double big lineups. So
Mhm.
alongside Horford, alongside Luke Cornett, expect him to be roaming around that 3-point line, like you alluded to earlier, and be striking from deep distance, which could ultimately get him the MVP. I think, like you
I'll give
said.
you this real quick, Bruce.
Hmm.
Real quick. So the starting lineup that they had roll out against the Hawks, they had Paolo, they had Franz and Carter, but then they started Corey Joseph and KCP. So
Hmm.
you think about that lineup bringing it out against the Celtics. I mean, regardless of how big they kind of sound, someone's got to guard Porzingis, right? Who's going to guard Jason Tatum? I mean, I assume it's going to be Paolo, right? And they're just going to be
Yep.
guarding each other the whole time. But
Hmm.
if you don't think Wendell's going to be guarding him, I mean, if he's going to be starting consistently, which he has all year long, I mean, it's got to be him or Franz.
It
So,
has to. It
I,
has to be. And I think, like you kind of mentioned as well, Tatum on Paolo, I see happening. I see Franz on JB happening as well. I see those kind of matchups and them switching kind of in between.
Mhm.
Maybe even Tatum on Franz at some points. So I could see that. I think Wendell, like you said, consistently starter, going to have to be the guy to be on Porzingis, and then, like I said, maybe have to mix in Isaac kind of in there into some rotations a little bit early on, or
Mhm.
have to look into that forward rotation, because I did see a tweet before the start of the playing game that Corey Joseph, since Jalen Suggs has gone down, has been
Mhm.
that consistent starter. So he, I best believe, will be starting because they have been doing good with him in that lineup. So that's something maybe the Celtics can use with that, killer whale knowledge that they like to use an attack on that offensive end, and maybe find their weakness in Corey Joseph as well, which could be in the favor of one of those guards, or Porzingis as well, attacking on him on a
I'm loving the
mismatch.
double big.
Hey.
Loving the double big this series. I really am. Give Porzingis a lot more freedom. Bring the defense to kind of spread out, kind of force him to guard the 3-point line, and then everything opens up, especially for Jaylen Brown. That's why he's going to be used as a decoy. Kind of be that guy that's hitting those backdoor screens, kind of just staying in the lane and getting to his spots on the elbow. I mean, like we said, he hasn't been shooting great from the 3-point line. His best percentage is from the corner. And I think that opening up the offense and just spreading guys out is going to do big deals for them and can really help them actually sweep if they really want to. Just spreading out the defense and forcing the Magic to kind of change things around, because the Celtics are going to make you feel uncomfortable.
100%. I completely agree. And I think the fans do agree as well. So let us know your thoughts. If you guys are watching the stream, make sure to get those clippings ready, because when Patrick and I get some of these predictions right, you guys can have those proofs and
Look, I
those
hope we're wrong
receipts.
and it's in 4. Great.
Yeah, I mean, we all want the sweep, but on anything of Jaylen Brown doing good, Derrick White, Kristaps Porziņģis dominating, make sure to have those receipts ready, because Patrick and I will be ready to celebrate that alongside with you. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this stream where Patrick and I look forward and dove into the preview matchup between the Celtics and the Magic, giving our predictions. Patrick in 5 with the Celtics, me in 6 with the, or Patrick in 6, me in 5. I messed up right there, but holy crap! But both of us giving our predictions. It's been a fantastic stream. I appreciate everyone that came out in there. Shout out to my boy Frozeful for always giving me out on the respects. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be going and doing videos as well with the Orlando Magic creator. His name is also happens to be Patrick. So we're gonna
Winner
be
gets the
me
name. Winner
and
gets
Pat. Winner gets the name. Winner gets to keep it. Well, I think you might be a little bit luckier, Pat. But
Good.
me and Patrick squared, Patrick times 2. We'll be doing some videos for you guys covering this series on the channel. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date on everything on this Celtics team. And we'll be catching you guys next week, or we're not gonna be going live next week, but the following week after, when we look at some more stuff, probably diving into the second round matchup with the Boston Celtics. So catch you guys later, and we'll see you guys in the future videos. Have a great rest of your night.